Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Appreciate you watching. This episode, we pull out the fuel tanks in the boat, cut the rest of the deck off, pretty much take the last big part out of it, so it's pretty exciting. And then we start fitting in the back end of it where we can get to the point where we put the transit plate on. So, lots to watch. Thanks for following. So I cut the decks off the boat. I had to use a skill saw on the death wheel, that little grinder with a carbide blade on it, because the fuel tank's in there, right? So you can't use the plasma, you blow yourself up. But anyhow, so the tanks on this thing are actually quite large. We're gonna probably take about 16 inches off, I think, of them, and then we're gonna seal them back up, weld them back together, but we're gonna put a baffle in it so we can use it. The back half is fuel and the front half is water, so we can rinse dive gear and all the rest. So I'm gonna try to make that work. So there's a little bit of the cutting the deck out. I won't show you too much. Like I say, it was not too much fun to watch. Just struggling through it. Big one was the tank was right underneath it. It was only about a 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch away from the deck, so you had to make sure you didn't cut into it. So we're going to save the tanks. So the last big piece coming off the boat. That's it. There's a little tiny bulkhead and maybe a odds and sods, but this is the last big chunk we cut off. So pretty happy about that. So I just put a basic clamp on the tank, hooked the crane onto it, just lift it up enough to get a strap underneath it. I know a basic clamp's not a lifting device, but what are you going to do? Don't always have to follow the rules. So the tanks in this thing have actually fared out really well over the years. It was built in 1961. I can't imagine the decks ever having been taken off, but not by the look of it anyways. And they only had like a little weld on the very front corner, and then an angle iron welded to the tank, and then to the back to the front bulkhead, the one entering the cab. And the one was broken on one side, and the other one was broken on the other side. So, but amazingly enough, these tanks don't have even so much as a rub mark in them. They have a rubber glued down to the angle iron ribs in the boat that everything was sitting on, and I think that actually saved everything. It was quite amazing. So pretty happy about that. We're be able to just, like I say, cut the front nose off the tank and build it into a water tank, and then leave the back onto it. And we're going to do exactly the same thing. We'll probably put a couple of straps into it, because we're going to bolt the deck on, so we'll have access to it, so we can check it. But we're just going to put a couple of straps on the thing and call it good. I was actually kind of proud of myself when I watched the video back after I pulled these tanks out. It come out not bad. I didn't bang it around too much. I was lifting it up. You can't really see because the bulkheads are in the way and the side of the thing when you're running the crane, so it actually kind of worked its way out of there pretty good. So while it's hooked to the truck, I just drive her out and put her outside, get it out of the way. So when I cut the transom off the back of this boat, the bottom of the hull, they'd had 3 motors put in there, so they'd welded in different motor mounts and all the rest of it. So it warped quite a bit. Whenever you weld on a flat chunk of plate, it tends to pull, right? It shrinks and all the rest of it. So the bottom of this one's pretty, it's walking all over the place. So I just took some angle iron and I'm gonna pull it in straight with that, tack it into place, and then once I put the transom on, I can take it off, but it's gonna hold it straight so I can fit the transom to the back of the boat. Oh, here we go right now, putting it in. So there's 3 main bulkheads in this boat right now. There's the one in the cab, in the forward cab, and then there's the one at the back of the cab, entering the cab, and then there's one more just about 2 feet and, well, yeah, probably more like 3 feet from where I'm standing right now, and then there's a little tiny one about 14 inches in front of me. So I've left everything in until I get everything stiffened up and held enough. So I'm probably going to pull out the little short one first and replace it, and then I'll save the other bulkhead to in front of it, the one that's 24 inches away from where I'm at right now. I'll save that once I get the transom put on, then I can put it. I don't want this thing dancing around too bad, so. Yeah, look at how oil canned it is. That's all them years, all them welds in there were doing that. It all warped. So it's going to be a bit of farting around trying to pull all that straight again, but. How shameful is that? Where I cut the skegs off the bottom of this boat, I still went in there and taken a grinder and cleaned everything up. Polished it to make it look good. Oh well, I'll get her eventually, I guess. You kind of get busy fabricating everything else together. The terrible part is the grinding, so it's always fun fitting and welding and carrying on like that, but the grinding part sucks, so it always takes a second chair. Definitely has to be done before we put in order, though. So it oil can pretty good in there, as you've seen before, but I had this one spot that it was just kept, you just pull it down and it just have this little tiny bubble that would always stay up, so I went and got a bigger chunk of plate in order to spread out the clamp distance, so hopefully it would pull it all the way down. It worked all right. It left a little tiny piece, but everything worked out eventually. Got to make sure the GoPro's not getting burned. All you can really do is just keep pulling and working it in, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You got to kind of change your strategies and all that. So aluminum's actually pretty easy to work with that way. It kind of does what you tell it to. It's not a hard pull to get it in. It's not like it's T1 or like a high tensile strength steel, right? It just kind of easily manipulated, so not too hard to work with. Even when you're welding aluminum, if you can tend to hold it where you want it to be while you weld it, it doesn't like shrink too bad and pull and twist, and it's not as terrible as some other metals. But stainless steel is like unbelievably difficult to work with. I've done a lot of stainless work in my past, but aluminum's actually nice that way. It kind of tends to do what you want. It's pretty straight. There's one stubborn little spot right here. I don't know if you can see it. Let's see. A couple of stitches. So I put another angle iron on the other side of the boat. I just did the same thing. I pulled it in with the crane, held it with the best clamp, and then just tacked it and fit it and pulled and everything like that until everything was nice and straight. I didn't actually attach the ends of the angle iron together in the center of the boat. I didn't weld them together. I don't think I really needed to do that. I didn't lose the dead rise in the boat, so everything should be good there. There's an actual center rib that runs from one end of the boat to the other, and that's not compromised at all. So, and I have all the rest of the actual bulkheads in the boat still in place, so everything should be good there. So it's just a matter of getting that back end straight so I can put the transom on. And then once I got these into place, I'm comfortable with cutting that little short bulkhead out in front of it. So I'll replace that before I actually put the transom on, because that wouldn't be fun to try doing that while the transom on. It's going to get tight in there, and it's going to be some ugly welding to begin with. So it would be better off just to get that in place, weld it out, and then be done with it. So I'm pretty much making the refit on this boat up as I go along. I'm kind of just drawing pictures and figuring out what I want to do. Here's a blueprint of what I'm actually going to build with that little short bulkhead. So like I say, it's all made up as I go along. I'll try to walk you through what I'm thinking process wise and everything like that, and show you how I laid out. Enjoy. It's kind of confusing. So because this plate is the front deck plate, and the deck plate's only 6 feet, that leaves me 2 feet of crop that I can use for cross member of this. But the problem is this piece here is 83 inches wide, so we're going to build it out of 2, so 43 or 41 and a half. We're going to make it 44 and overlap that thing here. I'll show you. So I'm going to make it starting from center point, and then it's going to come out and it's going to overlap this by like 1.5 inches, and then I'll be able to, it's going to be on the back side, and then I'll be able to weld it up through here and get in behind and weld it there. And then they'll join right here in the center, and then I'll have that nice flat spot for the batteries and all the rest of it. Anyways. So I got to come back half of 36, which is 18 from this point. So I'm always come for the 10-inch mark on, I don't know why. It's just easier. Come from the 10-inch mark, go 28 rather than 18, and then you get more of an accurate reading, right? Same thing. And then that's 4 1/4 up, which is there. 4 1/4 up. So we join these two lines. Over there. And we go 6 inches, so from that point to that point. And then because this is flat and coming off that center rib, then this line here would be square. So I can take that at my 43-inch mark. There you go. So I'm going to drill a hole there just so it gets a nice radius on that corner. So I used the first plate that I cut out I just traced out on the plate to cut out the second side. So I didn't have to lay it out again, it's easier that way. And then I cut a couple mouse holes in them so that the water would flow properly and you're not trapping it in a pocket. So other than that, it's all pretty worked out good. And then the battery box, I just cut it to length and then formed up the two edges to 2 inches so it sat in there properly. I gotta poke a couple holes in that so the water drains out of it as well. Other than that, we're pretty much done with the back end, ready for the transom to go on. So thanks again for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. And the next video is going to be coming up pretty soon here. Let's get some likes for Mike's first appearance on the channel, other than maybe the intro. But thanks, Mike, for the help.